These are the assembly instructions for my pop-up church. This is the Christmas version. My card base is Cricut Craft board, and it has a score line in the center. I folded down on the score line. I've chosen some wintry patterned paper, and I've glued them down so that there's approximately an even border all the way around. So next I have my little snow hill. I'm just going to glue those shapes down. I'm just putting the cut edges along the patterned paper, like so. So these are the roof mechanism pieces, and you want to fold down on all the score lines, and you have two pieces that are identical. So you're just going to put glue along that center panel and take your second panel and just glue them together. You end up with a shape that looks like this. So you've got your tab at the top, you've got your tabs on both sides, and then you have this piece which is going to be glued to the top to form the roof. So before we glue it to the top, we're going to decorate it. So I've already folded down on that center score line. I've got my score line horizontally, and I'm just going to start on the bottom of my panel. I have this narrow strip for the bottom. I'm just gluing it onto my panel. And then I have a mess of shingles. So I've cut out 3 colors, and I want to alternate these 3 colors. My lighter color has these wider borders, and then I have my metallic color that has the thin border on one side and the thick border on the other, and so does my darker color. Now what you want to do is alternate them just so that it gives that patterned effect. So I'm going to start with my lighter color. So I'm just putting glue on the underside of my lighter color. I'm gluing it down. That little notch that you see here is right at the top of my gray piece. So I've already have my dark gray, my light color, and then I'm going to put my metallic color. And I'm gluing it down so that this notch is just at the top of my previous piece. So I'm going to go with a darker color, and I'm going to put it down so that the thicker border is going to be over this thin border. I'm just gluing it down again so that this notch is just at the top of this strip here, like so. So I'm just going to continue alternating the colors until I reach that score line in the center. I've finished embellishing both sides of my panel. So I've worked from the one edge all the way to the center, from the other edge all the way to the center. And now I have this one piece with a score line down the middle. It's going to go at the top, like so. I'm putting glue on the underside of that piece. I'm folding my roof in half, gluing that piece at the top, like so. So this is the piece for my church, and I'm just folding down on all the score lines. Now we're going to decorate the panels that are going to go on our church piece. So I have my 4 pieces that are for the walls of my church. So there are score lines on 3 of these pieces to help guide me so that I can position my windows properly. We have the score lines for the yellow pieces to show us where to place those. And then I have my window frames to glue on top, and I have that for the side pieces as well. And for the front piece, I have the little window that goes above the door, like so. And then I have a rectangle with 3 copies of the same shape that are just going to give my door a little bit of depth. I've got 2 pieces exactly the same. I'm just going to glue them all on top of one another like so, and then my 2 doors side by side on my white piece, making sure that there's an even border all the way around. So now I'm going to glue the pieces down, just gluing down these wall pieces. I have my tabs on the right hand side, and the front of my church is going to go on this side, and the back of my church is going to go on the panel where there's the 2 tabs. So I'm just going to glue those down. So now I'm flipping my piece over, and I'm just folding that first panel inwards and putting glue all over this tab without getting any glue anywhere else. And then I'm going to fold over that wall piece and join it up to the tab. That's going to form my little church. So now I'm grabbing the mechanism for my roof, and I'm putting glue all over this triangle. So this tab is upwards. I'm just sliding this into my roof piece. I want it to follow along the triangle of my roof. But then I'm putting glue on the triangle on the other side, and I'm just putting it along the edge of my roof. It's a good time to make sure it flattens nicely. And then you want to put glue on the tabs at the top, so both these tabs, and you're going to flatten your piece I'm sandwiching my church inside my roof piece so that those two tabs are right up against that score line. There's a little tiny bit of an overlap on both sides. It's best to have the overlap the exact same amount, and so then when you open it, that's your roof. So next we're going to work on our steeple. So I'm just folding down on all those vertical lines, and then on those two triangles at the top, and then those two tabs at the bottom, and then that extra tab right at the bottom of that tab. I have these little tiny flaps. I'm going to fold inwards like so. So I'm looking at the wrong side of my piece, or the inside of my steeple. I'm just putting glue on those flaps, just gluing them down. I'm doing the same thing with the other set, just gluing them to the inner walls of my steeple. So I'm folding up the shorter tab, and then I'm folding the longer tab as well. And then that score line I'm going to fold the opposite way so that it looks like a V. And I'm just going to put glue on that part that I folded back, and I'm going to fold my piece over so that the tab, the short tab, is right on top. So in essence what I'm doing is I'm gluing my tabs together so that they form like an M. I'm going to put glue on that other end, and I'm just going to sneak it under there and tuck it in so that the cut line on this piece is right up against the score line on my tab, and my piece folds nice and flat. So this is the roof to my steeple, and I've just glued a little triangle to the tab so that it creates that peak. So I'm just putting glue on those triangles on both sides. I've flattened out my roof, and I'm just positioning it as far as it'll go. You want your score line from this triangle to be even with the score line on your steeple, and the same thing on the other side, as much as possible. I've got my card base, and I flattened my church so that the tabs are on top of one another like so. And I'm just positioning this so that it's within the framework of my card, and that the angle for my tabs are right on the score line. So that's the way it's going to fit in the card. Now you've got the steeple that you want to make sure fits as well. I'm just putting glue all along that little V that I had formed on the underside. You should have this V. Put your church in position so that that angle is right against the score line, and you want to position your steeple so that it's well within the boundaries of your card. I'm just going to lift it up and apply a little bit of pressure. So I have my church flattened, and I have my piece right against that score line. I'm making sure that my church is entirely within the borders of my card, and I'm just putting glue just on that top tab, and then I'm putting my piece right against that score line, and I'm closing my card. And then I'm going to flip my card over and keeping my little church in place. I'm putting glue along that longer tab, and then I'm closing my card again. I'm applying pressure where I can feel those tabs, and then when I open my card, my little church pops up. So I have my little snowbanks, my embellishments, and this is where you would write your sentiment. This is iridescent metallic cardstock. This is glitter cardstock, and then this is just 80-pound cardstock, and this is where you can write your sentiment. And I'm just going to glue them down pretty much the way you see them. So this is my front panel. The first layer is some metallic silver cardstock, and then I foiled this blue 80-pound cardstock with some silver foil. I'm just going to glue these together, leaving an even border all the way around, and then I'm just going to glue that to the front of my card.